Vireo, and more, maturing an open source ETD management system and its community. Sharing this information with you is Christopher Starcher, Texas Tech University, Frank Smutniak, Texas Digital Library, and Courtney Mumma, Texas Digital Library. My name is Lily Compton, and I will be your moderator for the next 15 minutes. During concurrent sessions, one session will be held in the main room and the other session will be in a breakout room. For all sessions, be sure to reserve 5 to 10 minutes at the end of each session for discussion. A quick reminder before we begin. During the presentation portions, participants should keep your audio muted. Please feel free to use the Zoom chat tab to ask questions, which will be addressed during the discussion segment. Thank you all for joining us, and I will turn it over to Christopher, Frank, and Courtney.
Okay, thank you very much, Lily. Let me share my slides here. All right. Does that look okay, Lily? Good. Okay. All right. Okay, well, hello, everyone. My name is Christopher Starcher. I am the Digital Services Librarian at Texas Tech University. I'm also the product owner, product manager, and a developer for the Vireo project. I work closely with Texas Digital Library, which is the entity which is responsible for the Vireo project. I'm joined today by two of my TDL colleagues, Frank Smutniak. He is the Senior Software Engineer and Vireo Technical Lead at TDL, and Courtney Mumma, who is the Deputy Director of TDL. I will be doing the presentation today, but they are here to assist with the Q&A and any conversations that we might have after the presentation. So this is just an overview of the points we're going to hit today. So I'm going to give you a short, brief introduction to Vireo. We'll talk about the evolution of Vireo a bit over the years. I want to talk about accessibility. I think that's important it's certainly important for Vireo, but I think it's important for everyone. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about community, the Vireo community. We will discuss the sustainability of the project. I'll give you some highlights of Vireo 4. I'm not going to go into all of the details of Vireo 4 and show you all of the features and that kind of a thing. That's not really what this presentation is about. I've got some other presentations up that deal with that. If you'd like to see them, or if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And then after that, we're going to discuss the roadmap and the future direction of the Vireo project and some things that we're working on and kind of how we're looking at that. And then at the end, I'd like to have a discussion with everyone. I know that this isn't necessarily the best forum for that type of thing, but I really would like to engage you all, get your ideas, and then, of course, answer any questions that you may have about Vireo. So I don't know much about the audience here and who has seen Vireo and has not seen Vireo or knows anything about Vireo. So let me do just a little introduction to what Vireo is. Vireo is an electronic thesis and dissertation management system. It supports the entire ETD process, the entire ETD life cycle, starting with student submissions, moving into graduate office approval and communications, graduate office communications with students, and then publication and repository deposit of those submissions. Vireo integrates with DSpace. We use the SWORD protocol to integrate with DSpace, but we also have exports that are available that can be used if you use ProQuest at your institution. And we also have an export that allows you to export in MARC so that you can import those records into your catalog. I want to talk just briefly about the stakeholders for Vireo. There are three key stakeholder groups. The first is are the students who interact with Vireo through the student submission interface. The students are able to fill out the required metadata, upload their documents, and submit their thesis and dissertations through this interface. Um, the second group is the graduate offices who interact with Vireo through the admin interface. So there are really two sides to Vireo. There's a student side and an admin side. And so the students really are just see the student side, but the admin, any admins, so your graduate offices and your librarians interact with Vireo through the admin side. So the second group is for graduate offices, and so they are able to manage the system through this interface. They're also able to manage the workflows through this interface, and they're able to see all of the submissions as well as communicate with the students through this interface. The third group is the librarians who interact with Vireo. They also interact with Vireo through the admin interface. Um, they can they can assist at, every institution is different in how they have their graduate offices or their approval process for thesis and dissertations. And so, some places I've seen, they just go through the colleges. Others, like my institution, actually has a graduate office, and all thesis and dissertations for the entire university go through that central graduate office. Um, so whoever these people are at your institution, I'm just using generic labels here, but they can interact through these interfaces. So the third group being the librarians, and they can assist the graduate office if your institution has processes where the librarians are involved in processing the ETDs, things like that. They can do that, but they can also manage the metadata through this interface. They can also do any repository deposits. So if you use DSpace, they can do that process if it is, the librarian at your institution that does that type of thing. Or they can use any kind of export functionality that's built in, so for ProQuest or for your catalog. Um, so briefly about the evolution of Vireo. So Vireo, both the software and the project have evolved substantially over the years. This project started out as an IMLS grant, and I couldn't tell you how many years ago that was, but many years ago. As you know by the title of this presentation, we are currently on version 4 of Vireo. The software specifically has evolved into a highly configurable multi-workflow system, and I will discuss this later in the presentation and give you a little more detail about what I mean about it being highly configurable and multi-workflow. So this is a new feature in Vireo 4 that didn't exist in any of the previous versions. Um, the community, so this is a community-led open source project. The community has grown and matured substantially as well. It's very, I think if you're part of that community, I think you would agree with me. If you're not, you're welcome to become part of that, and you will see that it has become a very collaborative and supportive community of dedicated users, developers, and institutions. Um, the One of the things that has evolved as well is our repository management. So just in general, the code repository. So we now host all of our repository on GitHub. We manage our projects there. All of our issues are there. We've centralized a lot of that over the past few years, and streamlined that. And so that has really evolved over the past few years. So let's move on to accessibility enhancements. This is, as I mentioned earlier, this is very, very important with ADA Title II. We're all working to get our systems compliant, and so Vireo is not an exception here. We a while back TDL commissioned an accessibility audit. This was a few years ago. The audit identified accessibility deficiencies in the application. We have done quite a bit of work over the past couple of years to remedy this, and we have made significant strides in supporting all of the ADA Title II requirements. We have a little bit of work left to do. And you know, uh, it's been somewhat difficult, and really the greatest difficulty here was retrofitting an application that was not designed as accessible from the outset. So this has really been a retro project. We've had to go back and change things and fix things that weren't designed that way originally. Um, and I will discuss this a little bit more later on, and what we're doing to remedy that. Um, I also want to point out that we we developed, and when I say we in this instance, I wear a lot of hats in this project, as you can tell from my introduction, and I have three roles, and they're very distinct roles. But one of those roles is the product owner, and I am a part of the Vireo user group steering committee. This is a committee that's a subset of the user group that meets monthly, and we discuss issues surrounding Vireo and make decisions based on feedback that we get from the user group. One of the things that steering committee did recently was we created this task force on accessibility resources. And there's a link here, and I thought I had put that link. Maybe it's in the next slide. If it's not, I will put it in the chat. Um, this link will take you to a page that will describe what that task force did, what their purpose was, and what they accomplished. And I'm going to show you here in just a second. They came up with a really well laid out one-page informational sheet. Um, this sheet was designed to help institutions to guide them to making the submissions, so the actual documents that are submitted to Vireo, the thesis and dissertations, accessible as well. So from Vireo's standpoint, you know, we could go in and we could make the code, we can make the application accessible, but we don't really have a lot of control over the accessibility of the actual documents that are deposited. So that's what this task force was tasked to do. And you can see here, this is a screenshot of that one page that has resources, links to others that are working on this type of thing. It gives some ideas about responsibilities and things to think about as you're creating your thesis and dissertation before you submit that, so that those documents and resources along with that are all accessible. Ah, here is, and let me put this in the chat. I can get to the chat. interface changed here. Okay. Oh, all right. Can I add everyone? Oh, well, that doesn't seem to be working the way I thought that should work. Um, Here we go. Everyone. There we go. All right, so there that is. You're all welcome to use that if it's helpful to you, whether you are a Vireo user or not. These are just standard recommendations for any thesis and dissertation. So you don't have to be a Vireo user. You're welcome to view that and to use that information if it helps you and your institution. So now let's talk about the community a little bit. So we've focused on several areas of community support. Um, and when I speak about community here, I'm going to talk about a couple of different communities because we have some different communities. One of the communities is the developer community. That's the people that are actually doing the development work. And the other community is the user community. So starting out here, this lower barriers for new participants is specifically directed at the developer community. We realized a while back that uh, for the sustainability of this project, we needed to try to increase our developer community. And we needed to lower the barriers for participation for new developers to come into the project. And so we've tried to improve our technical documentation in an effort to make onboarding of new developers easier. We've also tried to improve our communication channels and processes to make communication uh, with developers more efficient. We do still have work to do here, and we've got some plans to continue to work on this. But I think we've done some good things, and we will continue to do some things in the future that will help with onboarding developers and growing that community. Um, of course, we're always trying to support the growth of the user group community. As I mentioned earlier, this group has become a real community of support and collaboration. Um, we have some ideas that we are looking into to continue to support this group and its growth. Some of those ideas include providing more opportunities for participation and feedback. We feel we haven't provided enough opportunities for that, so we plan in the near future to start opening that up and making that easier for the user group to interact with each other and with those of us that are making final decisions about the product. So sustainability is very important to any open source project. And this is one of the focuses of my work in another role that I mentioned earlier as the Vireo product manager, and that is sustainability of the project itself. And if anyone here has done any sort of open source work, you know that without solid governance, an open source project is pretty much dead in the water. It just can't exist. And the Vireo project is supported by TDL, and as I mentioned earlier, is guided by the user group and the user group steering committee. These groups continue to improve, and I believe these groups are really stronger than they've ever been right now in this project. So we have some good collaboration going on and some good groups that are doing a lot of good work. Um, we have been working on long-term planning for development. I will discuss this a little later in the presentation, but suffice it to say that Vireo has lacked this long-term planning for development. It's been a very reactive project. Just kind of doing what we needed to do to kind of get by. But you know that you kind of do that in your early stages, and now I think we've matured enough that we can start working on long-term planning for development. Um, we um, we rely heavily on the community to help with sustainability uh, by involving them in strategic tasks. So the task force that I just mentioned earlier is a great example. It's the most recent example of this. And then outside of long-term development planning, we also have been working on more general planning for the sustainability of the entire project. So the entire an open source project is more than just code and the code base, right? It requires community and support to keep it going. So we're planning for those areas as well, not just the actual system. So I want to go over a few Vireo 4 highlights. And just point out some new functionality in the system. And I don't have a lot of screenshots. I didn't feel that this was really the type of presentation to do a lot of screenshots, but I do have a few that are coming up. And I just felt it would be easier to show you a little bit about what these things, how they look, and not just describe them with words. So there have been many advancements in Vireo 4. Um, Vireo has become a highly configurable system. From workflows to logos, it's possible to conform Vireo to your institutional needs. Um, Vireo 4 supports organizational hierarchy and inheritance. What this does is this allows for multiple workflows within a single institution. So within a single system, you can have multiple workflows. Previous versions of Vireo, if you wanted to have multiple workflows, you had to have multiple versions of Vireo running, and that is no longer the case. Um, Vireo 4 also supports controlled vocabularies. This allows for better metadata guidance and restrictions for the input of the students, and I'll show you a little bit about that in a minute. So let's move on. I'm going to show you specifically first. This is the hierarchy. As you can see, I've got some hierarchy going on here. You can even go further down than this. You can create colleges, departments, degrees. There are a few other options that are here, and you can create these hierarchies, and each of these is a separate organization. Um, and each of these, as you can see, so if you look where it says manage organization, next to that, you'll see manage workflow. Each of these can have their own workflow, and it can be customized to those particular um, entities' needs. So, for instance, at my institution, we have two workflows. We have a graduate school workflow that all of our thesis and dissertations go through. We have a separate organization for our honors college. Our honors college uses Vireo, and they need a different workflow for those materials with different metadata fields and for their needs. And so they have a completely separate workflow, and those are managed separately. So this is the admin side. So this is what it looks like on the admin side to either your graduate school or your librarians or whoever is managing these organizations. This is what it looks like, and you could manage um, the organization specifically, the workflow rules, and the email workflow rules all independently for each organization. So that is a new feature in Vireo 4 that we're very proud of. We put a lot of work and effort into this, and I think it's paid off. Um, Here is the one slide, and I'll show you another slide here in just a minute, of the controlled vocabulary management. So you can create controlled vocabularies. These are the defaults that are in there, but you can create your own controlled vocabularies. You can use these controlled vocabularies with your input fields in your workflows. So one of the fields that a lot of institutions use this for is for their advisors. So that you can have names and email addresses in a controlled vocabulary for the advisors, and you can restrict that field to just use that controlled vocabulary. Um, that prevents the student from entering an incorrect email address of their advisor. And yes, it does happen. Sometimes they even put in the wrong name for their advisor. You never know with students. Um, and so, anyway, this gives you some flexibility here. You can either restrict it or you can give them some guidance. So, like a pop-up menu that shows them now, and that also allows free entry of text, but that doesn't, but that gives them options, so they can just find it and click it and use what's in there. But if you set up your field to where it allows free entry, they could actually put in um, another person, for instance, if their advisor isn't in the list or something like that. So anyway, you can do this with the different fields in your workflow. We're very proud of this functionality too. It seems to work really well from what we hear from the users. Here is just another view. So this is a table view. So there are a couple of ways that you can interact with the controlled vocabularies. You can create a CSV file of your controlled vocabulary external to the application and upload that. Or you can come in here, and this is just a table, and you can edit your controlled vocabularies here within the application. So for instance, if you just need to edit one or two, if you've got a whole list of advisors and you want to put them in, it's probably better to do that in a CSV file and upload those. But if you just need to change a couple of things, you can very easily do that here through this part of the interface. All right, so those were the highlights, and they were very highlights. There, of course, are a lot of other features in Vireo 4, but those are the ones I wanted to point out to you. So moving along, I want to talk about the roadmap and the future direction of Vireo. So we're in the process of creating an official roadmap for Vireo. The project as I mentioned before, the project's never had this before, and has never had this level of planning. So we're in the process of doing that. We're talking to all of the stakeholders. I've just done interviews with all of the development team. And so we are currently working on that and hope to have that out sometime in the relatively near future. Um, as I mentioned before, we are planning toward development of a new version of Vireo. So we're already starting to think about that. No, it's not going to be out next week. But we're starting to think about that. And I think that, while I can't give you a timeline at this point, I just thought it was important to point that out, to give you some understanding of the idea of how we are looking forward and what we're doing, and that we are actually looking forward and working on these things and planning for Vireo's future. Um, I I made a reference earlier to the difficulty of retrofitting an application to accessibility standards. Um, this new version of Vireo, you can know that accessibility will be front and center for us as we look um, to develop this new version. we will have accessibility in mind on the outset, which is good for the application. It's good for the developers. We're not having to go back and fix things and do things like that. So accessibility, if you can't tell from this presentation so far, is at the forefront of our minds. And and as mentioned before, we are actively planning for Vireo's growth and for the sustainability of the project. So, I think this is important. As part of that planning, we would like to encourage everyone to become involved. If you are planning to be or are a Vireo user, please become involved. With you, Vireo is better. The more people who participate, the better Vireo becomes. Um, we are, uh, we're, as I mentioned earlier, we're always looking to support and to grow the Vireo community. We are always looking as well to expand and grow our developer team. We've had some success with that recently that I can report. It's been good. The last set of sprints, software development sprints that we did, we had several new contributors on those sprints. And so that was very exciting for us, for me in particular, um, to have that extra involvement. So if you know someone or if you would like to be involved with this, I would love to speak with you. Just reach out to me. I'll give you some contact information here a little bit later. Reach out to me. We'd love to have you on board, and we'll try to make it as painless as possible. Um, Another way to get involved is if you're great with documentation. Some people are really good with documentation, others not as much. We could use your help. We've got documentation is always evolving, and there's always a need for more clarity through documentation. Um, if you have any ideas for the Vireo project, I would any feedback, I would love to hear that as well. Please feel free to reach out to me, even if you're not using Vireo. If you have seen it, if you have ideas for what Vireo could become, um, I'm always open to those that feedback and those suggestions. So please reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. As well, you can collaborate through TDL and the users group. Some of those ways that you can do that is if any of you ever go to the Texas Conference on Digital Libraries, we always have a presentation there. We always have a user group meeting there. This is the conference, the annual conference that Texas Digital Library hosts. It is in Austin, so if anybody needs a reason to go to Austin, here's your reason right here if you were just itching to go to Austin. And I think the next one will be in early June, so you can find that information on the TDL website. So you can connect with us there. I will here in a little bit. I'll show you how to get onto the listserv. You can connect to the rest there. This is a really supportive group. You can ask questions. People will respond, not just me, which is nice. We've got a really good group there, and there are a lot of good discussions that happen there on the listserv. Um, you can you can be involved in user group meetings. So I will show you here in just a little bit some details about our next annual user group meeting that we do, our big annual one. And you're all welcome to come to that, even if you don't use Vireo yet. Maybe you're kind of interested or want to learn a little bit more. You are welcome to sign up to attend that. That's a virtual meeting. So just like this, and you can come and listen to me talk again if you really like to do that, um, and interact and ask questions, and it's a really good forum for feedback for us and for getting your questions answered. As well, I would point out that earlier I mentioned that we were working on giving some expanded opportunities for feedback for the community. And one of the ways we're trying to do that is we're looking at how to host more virtual user group meetings to involve the community. Previously, it really was the TCDL conference and then that annual user group meeting. And then, if you needed to email me or Courtney or something like that, those, but we would really like to have some more forums. So we're looking at maybe doing that on a more regular basis and just having kind of open sessions, really, even where it's not me just sitting there talking about Vireo and presenting and all that, but really a kind of a community setting where people can come in and it's really about asking questions and getting feedback and ideas and things like that. And then as well, if you are deploying Vireo at your institution, we do have a Slack channel that is dedicated to that. If you need help, if you need assistance, this is one way that we try to make it easy to for people to deploy Vireo at their institution and give them this opportunity. We have another Slack channel as well for developers. So if you are interested in joining the development team, um, you uh, get a hold of me and we can certainly get you in that Slack channel for the developers. Um, so that's really all I have. I'll show you here in just a little bit. I want to get to the discussion first, and then at the very end, I'll leave with the user group annual meeting information and then contact information that you can see. But um, I really want to spend a decent amount of time on this. Feedback is so important to us. It's how it's how the system, the application evolves into the type of application that the users need, right? So from a developer's perspective, there's no way for me to know all of the ways that the users use that unless they get in touch with me and they respond and they say, hey, what about this feature? Or you know what? This feature could be better if you did this. So I really would love, I mean, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask questions and I will be happy to answer those. But if you have comments or feedback about Vireo or just, things that you think in general make a thesis and dissertation submission system better, please let me know those things. So any questions, anything anybody wants to discuss or
You have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself or use the chat messaging and I'll read your question out.
maybe I just answered everybody's questions already, huh? Um, I'll move on, and please, if you have any questions, keep going in. I'll go ahead and show you these next slides real quick, and I'll talk about them just for a minute. But please feel free to, if you unmute, please feel free to interrupt me if you need to, or if you want to, do a chat question, that's fine too. So here's the information about that. Let me see if I didn't put this in my notes. Oh, hold on. Oh, there it went. Okay. Yeah, that's not exactly what I was wanting, but anyway, this was, let me see, how do I get that to go away? Nope. Well, I may have just moved out of, see if I can close this. Ah, there we go. Okay. So let me get this link, stick it in here. And okay, there it is. This has all of the information about our annual user group meeting. So if you would like to join that, please feel free to join. We'd love to have you. And I do some talking, but we also have a lot of discussion session there. So it's a good place to come and ask questions and kind of see the community a bit as much as you can in a setting like this. And then here is information. So here's my email, Frank's email, and Courtney's email. There's the repository. If you're interested in looking at the code base, you're welcome to go there and see all of that as well. Like I mentioned earlier, you can see all of the issues that we have that are outstanding, all of the things that we've accomplished. You can see all of our releases, things like that is all there. There is the link to the Vireo user group. So the user group and the documentation for Vireo are there. If you want to see some of the documentation that we have, user documentation, and if you want to see information about the user group and different things we've been doing, you can see that there. And then if you would like to join the listserv, even if you're kind of on the fence or you're just thinking about Vireo or something, it would be beneficial for you to be on the listserv and just kind of see information. We always post releases on the listserv, so you get that information. So really, if you want to follow Vireo at all and what's going on in the Vireo community, that's a great resource. So you can sign up there.
Christopher, I have a question.
Yes.
So, if an institution that does not have an existing ETD system, right?
Mhm.
At Iowa State, we have ProQuest, but let's just say, um, hearing from a lot of the ETD administrators, some institutions don't have any management. It's very manual. So let's just say that somebody who's new to the position does not know or have resources. What is the minimum entry for an institution to adopt Vireo? Do you need somebody who has the technological skills? You talk about a developer, right? Does that mean that somebody who's going to adopt this needs to have some basic knowledge of downloading and reading the GitHub and looking at the documentation? And also, piggybacking on that would be, who do they go to for a demo or understanding what's the first entry point?
Sure. So if you want to self-host Vireo, then you would need to have someone, they wouldn't necessarily have to be a developer, but someone that's somewhat of a systems admin, and you can deploy that. As I mentioned earlier, we've tried to clarify and make our documentation better. And Vireo is relatively turnkey in the sense that if you follow the steps in the documentation, it's not uh, too terribly difficult to deploy. Um, so you can do that. Um, if you would like to have hosting, you could reach out to TDL and Courtney and discuss that. If you would like to have someone else host your instance. And if Frank wants to jump in here, you can talk about that a little bit too. As far as barriers, we have a Slack channel where you can, if you decide to deploy, that you can get some technical expertise. You can always reach out to me. I'm happy to do demos. I can do demos and discuss Vireo with an institution if they're brand new to it and they just kind of, we don't know anything about Vireo. Where do we start? And so I'd be happy to talk to anyone who is thinking about that and would like to do that. But yes, you're right. Lots of institutions um, use manual processes. Some institutions still use email and things like that to manage their electronic thesis and dissertations. And this is one of the reasons we're trying to get the word out about Vireo is just because this system manages all that for you. The communications, the submissions, all of it is really managed within this single system, and you're not having oh, where did I put that email and all of those hassles and things. Where is that document? Those kinds of things. It's all here, centrally located in a single system, and so that's the purpose of Vireo and why it exists. So
I'll
that
just
answer
point
your questions. Go ahead, Frank.
I'll just point out that TDL hosts about 14, 15 sites for various institutions, and they all get upgraded at the same time when there's a new software upgrade. Not immediately. Sometimes software has to be built to do some minor data migration, but generally we keep everything up to date and it all gets rolled out together. There's merits to hosting, and just wanted to explain, how that's done.
Yeah, there are benefits to both, and so what I would say is most of the institutions in Texas use TDL for hosting. There are a few exceptions. Outside of Texas, the ones that I'm aware of course, with open source software, you don't know who all is using your software, but the ones of which I'm aware, a lot of them self-host. Um, they just have a technical person on staff that knows how to deploy systems, and so um, if you want to self-host, that would be a requirement. You would need some sort of technical person to be able to deploy the system.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the group? We have about 2 more minutes. Christopher and Frank, do you have any last insights you want to share?
Um, we're we're happy to have everyone on board that is interested in Vireo, and we try our best to help everyone to use Vireo and to be successful in using Vireo. And so we we would love to have you, if you're interested, if you think that this would benefit your institution, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll be glad to discuss it with you. Like I said, we can discuss demos or things like that. Um, be happy to do so.
And I'll say that the hosted sites and non-hosted sites, we get great feedback from them, and that's what drives the the improvement of the product. And like Christopher also said, you know, we've had, you know, increasing contributions from the community for development, and, you know, obviously the documentation would be welcome as well.
Great, thank you. And this concludes our session 5. Thank you for staying around, and thank you, Christopher and Frank, and I think Courtney couldn't be here, but thank you all again for contributing to this presentation. Please stay around. Our next session is actually the opening reception. So for the next half an hour, hang out with us and grab a drink and we'll chat.
Thank you very much.